In Disney's beguiling animated romp, a rebellious 16-year-old mermaid is fascinated with life on land. On one of their visits to the surface, which are forbidden, they fall for a human prince. Determined to be with her new love, Ariel makes a dangerous deal with a sea witch.
That's Little Mermaid.
That's Little Mermaid. It's the summer of 83, and a precocious 17-year-old Elio is spending time in Lombardy, Italy. He soon meets Oliver, a handsome doctoral student. No, it's Call Me By Your Name.
That's Call Me... What are you
Luca! Set in a beautiful seaside town on the Italian Riviera. This original animated feature, I don't know about original, is a coming-of-age story about one young boy experiencing an unforgettable summer filled with gelato, pasta, and endless scooter rides. Matt, what'd you think about Luca?
Luca, Disney Pixar's new one. They said it's going to be in theaters. Psych, we're putting on Disney Plus for all the children to enjoy. It is both, as Matt said, a coming-of-age tale and a literal fish-out-of-water story. I thought it was fun. I've seen people say online that this is Pixar playing it safe, and I would completely agree, but I still think Pixar makes it work. It is a nice, breezy story. The visuals are super good. Like, the water is ridiculously realistic at points. So the animation and the art design that Pixar is putting out now is just top-notch. It's something you can watch, and even if the story was utter garbage to you, it's visually still really fun to watch. Some of the stuff fell flat for me, which we'll get into spoiler territory. Well, when we talk about spoilers, no spoilers at first for you guys. But overall, I think it works. I liked the characters. I liked the little relationships they were forming. I liked the overall message. Once again, the visuals were fun. And being an Italian boy myself, I appreciated, is this the first Disney Pixar movie that's like, you know, really about rustic Italian spaghetti eating and stuff? Because I can't recall, you know, there's a thing that Disney likes to do is they like to take cultures and use their animated films to prop up all the most glorious and interesting parts of them. You have films like Coco and Moana that dig deep into these lesser explored cultures. And then this one was like, it's Italian. They're eating spaghetti and playing soccer, which I was like, hey, Disney, you could go a little deeper than that. But overall, as an Italian boy, I thought Luca was fun. Matt, what did you think?
Wow, I loved this movie.
Good.
When I first saw it, just on my overall thoughts, I thought it was breezy. It was funny enough. I really liked the message of it. I was right in with the emotionality of it, the big emotional moments. At first, I thought the animation style was really weak when they were underwater because they're going for this kind of like claymation style where the mouth is sort of drawn on. It's like Pingu or those old sort of Christmas clay stuff. But when, like you said, when they come into the above the sea line and the rocks look photorealistic, which then I thought this might be kind of weird to see them around. But then as they got on land, you really see this more claymation style where it's all about texture. Like their hair really looks like you can reach out and grab it, and like anything that could kind of be there. It looked like they were actually clay characters in this real world.
Compared to Love, Death, and Robots, which is something we have covered many times before. Go check out our other videos. You can go into our YouTube playlist, Matt Reviews. Luca and Disney movies are right up there with Love, Death, and Robots as some of the most impressive and lifelike CGI in the industry. Luca gets away with it, and it's not as in your face because, like you said, the characters are very exaggerated. They have the big eyes and like the drawn on mouths, and they don't look super realistic. But once you kind of let your eyes lock onto like the texture of their skin, their hair, the water, it is like startlingly, I can't even talk. It is crazy how realistic it looks. And so, like, once again, that is why even for the parts of the movies that I didn't really cling on to, like the emotional moments didn't really hit for me. But even though that stuff didn't, I had just as much fun like watching these scenes, especially when it gets very, very colorful, and just being like, wow, that is an accomplishment in art, if anything else.
Wow, interesting. You didn't go for the emotion. I mean, before we get into the spoiler parts, I felt, well, I guess we might have to talk about that. I felt like it was really well earned, and I thought it was built up well, and it didn't overstay its welcome. And okay, we'll have to go on to the spoilers. How about before we hit that, overall, I would highly recommend this to just about anybody. I watched it with my father-in-law, who is from Italy. And he really liked all the music and the little details. It's directed by an Italian guy who wrote it with two other non-Italians. I felt like, we were talking about this before, I felt like the Italian bits felt pretty authentic. I liked that the music they used was stuff you would hear on the radio then. It wasn't just sort of like very generic, like a parody of Italian music at all. It felt pretty authentic to me. Did it not to you?
No, I agree with you there. So when compared to movies like Coco and Moana and these other movies that are very, very deeply entrenched in their focal culture, they didn't, for me at least, it didn't seem like they paid the same amount of respect to honoring the actual real culture as much as they played into the stereotypes. So I was happy when in the beginning of the movie he comes out of the water and he's kind of investigating this town. Like you said, it was very true to life. Rustic Italian, there's kids playing soccer. It feels like what a real small village in Italy would feel like. But then when they start to kind of embrace the characters, instead of them being honest representations of Italians through their culture, it's like, hey, you a stupido, or the Italian girl will just be like, a crazy, a mozzarella. And I'm like, yo, guys, it's not offensive because I'm not going to be offended by someone saying a mozzarella pasta. But when you're using that as like, hey, they're Italian, see, because they're saying a pasta macaroni,
right.
It's really like you're kind of skirting the line between what is being a bit too on the nose with stereotypical stuff and where do you kind of, because there's other things that you can celebrate about Italian culture. Obviously, this movie was trying to be more about the characters and about the coming of age story. So they were using the rustic Italian village as a backdrop for this story. They're not trying to prop up the story of the culture like you see in Coco with the Day of the Dead being a very, very focal part. There is like a race they do throughout the town that's kind of the focal part of the movie. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But like one of them is, well, you got to eat a big thing of spaghetti real fast. And like you're twirling the thing. Like in rustic Italian towns, they don't twirl the fork on the spaghetti. They're not all face shoveling a bunch of pasta in their faces. Like at points, I'm like, oh, so you're saying we're just like a bunch of pasta eating a stupido, a puno. But that's where I'm like, it's a Disney movie and it's not like they're trying to play it seriously. So if someone were to say I was offended by how Italians are represented in Luca, I'd say chill out, dude. It's really it's a kids movie. But when you see other movies that Disney takes a lot of care in making sure they don't kind of make a joke of things, to see them just go, it's whatever. It's Italy. Like no one really cares. I was kind of like, you guys had a lot of opportunities to do some good stuff. But once again, I wasn't really pissed about it. I was just more disappointed that they didn't go for the really cool stuff they could have. But hey, you got an hour and 30 minutes. What are you trying to focus on? So that's what I thought. But like you said, the overall thing felt more true to life than just kitschy Italiana, which, I appreciated. So
yeah, I guess it'd be like if it was set in Japan and they had a rice eating competition, or if it was set in America and they had like a hot dog and hamburger eating competition. And
this is where I'm saying it's hard to draw parallels, because then you start getting into things that you could say that are very racist, because there's a lot of stereotypes about a lot of different people in the world, and what kind of stuff is still seen as funny versus honestly offensive is very subjective. And to see a movie like from as big as Disney just kind of throwing at the wall and like, oh yeah, they're mad, so have them say a mozzarella. It's like, okay, I get it. A lot of kids are gonna laugh and a lot of kids are gonna be silly, but like when the alternative is to actually representing the culture as it stands, like you guys went for the easy way out, and that's the way I look at it.
I mean, it's funny, I didn't notice that as much, but I mean, I'm not Italian, so I don't think of it that way. I mean, I noticed on the flip side, there were a lot of times where people would just speak Italian and it wasn't even bothered to be like subtitled at all, and it felt more authentic too. So I guess it was kind of hit or miss there, and it is a kids film, but
I'm also holding it to higher standards because I love Coco as a film. I don't know, Matt, if you haven't seen Coco, Disney's Coco, musically it's fantastic. The guy who directed this, Luca, Enrico Casarosa, I hope I'm saying that right, he did the art, or worked in the art department for Coco, and Coco really made me understand a lot of the Day of the Dead culture, a lot of the celebration of life beyond, and they use the art very well and the music very, very well. So to see a project like that make me, as someone who's not part of the culture, really understand the culture and be able to empathize with it, to see it kind of flipped for a joke.
Yeah,
when it's my culture.
Because I mean, what I'm sick of is like,
I don't want to get in the weeds.
Is that white North American girls have had this Day of the Dead culture for their Halloween costumes for many years now, and I'm seeing that the Mexican people are just trying to take it, and they're making some festival about it. It's ridiculous.
And this is when we get to big conversations about appropriating culture, and I don't think it's very necessarily. We don't need to be doing it in this video.
No.
But that's what I felt about it. I don't really think it's like a big knock against the movie. It's just like, I wish there was more. Feed me.
Well, let's don't go beyond this. If you don't want to be spoiled, I highly recommend it. It's good for just about anybody.
Yeah.
Watch it with a young person, watch it with an old person.
Yeah, if you like Disney movies, you'll like this. Like, unless you really hate fun, like, is there anything you want to talk about specifically? Spoiler moments? I mean, the movie is kind of, as we've said multiple times, breezy, kind of straightforward, mostly about the two main characters, Luca and Alberto. But they do have a love interest third friend named Julia. They meet in the town. Like I said,
so I view the third person. I never got any sense of like it being a love story. But what I did really like is when he meets this older boy who's says he knows so much more. He's kind of leading him into this world and like opening him up to it. And then when the third person gets involved and now has that different bond. And I love that feeling of like, oh, that person.
You stole my friend.
Yeah, you stole my friend. I really like that. There was also the really big moment I loved is when the older guy wants to expose them. And he's like, they're not going to accept us. And he shows that he's a sea monster.
Talking about like the are you talking about like the shitty Italian, the Vespa driving, like the
no,
antagonist?
So, I can't remember their names, but okay, Luca's older friend, the one with the slightly more olive skin.
Alberto.
Okay, Alberto is telling Luca they're not going to accept us. They're walking, the three of them, the young people.
Yes.
And then he's like, look, we're monsters. What do you think of that? And Luca turns on him and says, "Oh, look, a sea monster!"
Yeah,
and
he ousts his friend in to save face against this new
and
friend.
I love that.
Yeah.
That like
Fantastic
from that
scene.
moment really kind of ripped me because I did that to a friend, a guy that I was friends with since kindergarten. I was trying to fit in with the cool kids when I was 12. They found him annoying. They told him, "Why are you even hanging out with us? No one here likes you." And he says, "Matt likes me," and I gave him the Luca.
I think we've all kind of done that when we're 12, 13, 11, in this kind of elementary school age. We're trying to find your clique. You're trying to, and the thing about Alberto and Luca's personality or their relationship is it's kind of, Alberto is the crazy, I just want to go for it. In the beginning movie or the beginning of the film, he has this catchphrase, Alberto, where it's Silencio Bruno,
I loved
which is a great catchphrase. My buddy, him and his daughter watch this. He has a very young daughter. I called him the next day and I said, put me on speakerphone because his daughter was in the room. And I started saying, Silencio Bruno. And then me and her just yelled it back and forth. So like as a catchphrase, it works and it resonates 31. With the kids. Yeah, she's 31 years old. No, she's like 4. There was interesting stuff with Alberto and his dad that they were kind of hinting at maybe there's an abandonment stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of left that at the wayside towards the end. They just kind of shoved it off as like, yeah, his dad abandoned him. And that's a double hit as to why he was really upset that Luca was vibing more with this Julia girl. Yeah. And so within Luca, there's a lot of really powerful messages to kids about, loyalty and being yourself. You're true to yourself and don't care about what other people think about you, which can be interpreted in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. It's a very subjective story. But don't giggle, Matt. But at the end of the day, I guess the thing with like the parents, they get worried for Luca. Obviously, they're very overprotective parents. They don't want him going up to the surface, so they go on this kind of trip to, we got to rescue our kid. A lot of that stuff didn't really work for me. I mean, the little humorous moments did, but I didn't feel like I'm worried for my kid stuff. If anything, it was more of the stuff that grabbed me was the visuals. There's a few specific shots and scenes I want to talk about there. Matt, do you have anything spoiler related you want to talk about before we talk about like our favorite shots and get into end game discussion?
Continue on.
So when Luca got very vibrant and got imaginative, there is a scene early on where Alberto and Luca are fantasizing about getting a Vespa, because it's the thing that Alberto thinks is the best in this human world, these little motorized mopeds. And they have this almost like fantastical dream sequence where it's like the land of the Vespas and everything. It goes from being like the claymation realistic but cartoony style to almost like painted. It's painted visuals. It's hard to describe. Maybe if there's a thing in the trailer.
It's sort of like an Italian neo-surrealism or neo-realism, yes. I think it is.
And they do that again later when Julia gives Luca a book about the universe, and he starts realizing that the universe is actually stars and stuff, whereas Alberto was kind of talking out his butt saying, the stars are actually fish and stuff. So he starts learning, but they do another sequence where him and Julia are riding through the stars, and it's kind of presenting his intellectual awakening, so to speak. And I thought that stuff worked really, really well. I wanted to see more of that. But then again, I'm just somebody who really likes colorful, trippy kind of sequences in films, especially like this. So that stuff really, really worked for me. If there's stuff that I'll remember about this movie, funny enough to say it, it's like the Vespa scene,
Sure.
Visually speaking.
Well, I think that they highlighted that really well, and I think the one thing they got right about the Italian culture and with the Vespas, that Italians, they like to make things that, and it's like kind of a Latin thing. They do this in French too.
Do we, Matt? Do we like to
They
make
no,
things?
I'm not done.
I'm just giving you shit.
They like to make things that are very stylish.
Yes, we do.
And they might not be as reliable as a Japanese motorcycle, but it's gonna look way better. It's gonna look way cooler. Yep. And it has everything to do with like just like the style, the flair. It's not always about comfort. It's about that. And I mean that's the thing with like animated stuff is that you can really branch out and you can do these like totally different. It was almost like mixed media.
Yeah,
in a way. And I think they could have explored that even a little bit more. But yeah, it was really nice to see, and I wasn't expecting it. You know, I wanted to talk about the performances. These two kids, the voice actors to me sounded young. I didn't recognize them or know who they were, but I thought they were incredible. Especially the guy playing Alfredo. When he was yelling out that Silencio Bruno.
Alberto, Matt. Alfredo. Really, boys?
Oh, did I mispronounce that? Yeah.
No, it's fine.
I thought they were, I thought they were incredible. They had to carry a lot of weight. They had to have a lot of chemistry. I mean, they're like speaking so fast. You know, another thing we can also talk about is, are these movies for kids? They're so fast paced. I think the only way like a young kid could pick up on this is just watching the visual gags and the one-liners, I think.
I was going to say, so I asked my buddy who had watched it with his kid, I said, well, what was her favorite part? And he said, well, in the very beginning, when Luca is still a fish and he's like wrangling up the other fish as a, like, it's like a shepherd, you know what I'm saying? He's trying to get all the fish in the farm or whatever. And that is very much not plot dependent. It's just a very visual, silly gag. But that stuff resonated with his kid. And so for kids, I think a lot of the grander storytelling is lost on them. The kids who are just like, you know, kindergarten kids, they're there for the visuals, for the fun, for the Silencio Bruno, these catchphrase things that they can then repeat because it expresses an emotion. Then when you get to a little bit older kids, maybe they're going to resonate with the who are my friends? Who do I fall in with? Where's my loyalty? Mm-hmm. I think that's the kind of stuff that sticks. What Disney does really well is that it works on multiple layers. So I think for me, even like I said, even if you hate the story, it's still a fun visual adventure to watch. You can be a child and not even understand what they're saying. But if the colors are bright and it's, you know, the characters are emotive and very cartoonish, I think they'll watch it 400 times over because, you know, they're kids and they like it. I think is the story for kids. Maybe it's more aimed at adolescents to adults
for sure. Yeah, it's more about like social standing and because we've seen a whole ton of animated movies that are about like finding yourself, but I find this one was really, like you said, it was more like the responsibility of what it is to be a friend and like sacrifice.
And there's and it's all framed through the fish out of water, like literal fish out of water. Also, I like the dynamic in the movie where if it rained, they were worried because if they get wet at all, then they become sea monsters. So that kind of played like a few little tense situations in, which I enjoyed that. But going back to your point about Jacob Tremblay and Jack Dylan Grazer, Jacob Tremblay voiced Luca. He is a fantastic actor, most recently seen in Doctor Sleep, which, oh man, his performance in that is brutal. If you've never seen that movie, it's very shocking. He was also in Room or The Room, won an Oscar with Brie Larson. He has been a top tier actor and a force ever since he appeared, and he's still pretty young. I think he's like 13, 14, 15.
Wow.
Jack Dylan Grazer, who voiced Alberto, I think his most popular role is in It Chapter 1. He's one of the Losers Club. I liked all these actors. The Losers Club's the name. Matt, have you not seen It Chapter 1 or Chapter 2?
No. Clowns and kids.
We're going to do that for Halloween. That'll be fun. Right. And Saw 1. But anyways, I think everyone really brought it. Everyone was emotive. Julia, I'm trying to remember who voiced her. There's a lot of really good stars in this. Jim Gaffigan was in here. Sacha Baron Cohen was in here. So it's just like a lot of talent, but they don't overstate their talent. No. It's just they're there. I didn't even know Sacha Baron Cohen was in it until you mentioned it. So like,
yeah, he really transforms his voice. I started hearing like little bits come through. He had the bit because he was the Uncle Fish that was going to take the kid down to the depths. It's dark down there. Whale carcass everywhere. That just gets into your mouth. You can't stop it.
Luca gets in trouble and his parents find out that he's been going to the surface. Like, we're going to send you away with your weird uncle. He's like translucent and you can see his heartbeat. His heart stops at one moment and then like, Luca, punch him. So that stuff worked. And now that I'm remembering that, yes, Luca for me is a one thumb up. I don't think we've done thumbs up yet, Matt. You're 2 thumbs up.
I'm 2, baby.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm 1 thumb up because, you know, I'm an Italian boy and I'm going to be mad about dumb things. But like all in all, this could have gone to theaters and done really well. The fact that they put it on Disney Plus day one and just without like the premiere access extra, really good on Disney doing that. Yeah. So hell yeah.
Okay.
Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Before I had watched this, I was just taking a look online and I saw a lot of people talking about, is this in any way like a gay allegory, or is it about being gay? And when I saw that, I was like, oh, really? But it seemed like a lot of people had latched onto it. And I was looking at just kind of the still images and maybe the trailer, and I thought so. And then I was on the fence. I didn't think it would be. Yeah. And when I watched it, then I really bought into it. And not even necessarily that the characters are gay, but more, it's more of a metaphor of like hiding your true self and being terrified. And then when his friend comes out and that thing that they bonded on, he turns on him, and then eventually coming out, having that pride, other people in the town showing their true colors, and not feeling like you're a monster because you're different and they don't they don't understand. And I mean, it could also be for just any kind of otherness, people that are minorities in ways or feel like they can't truly be themselves. And I thought it was anybody
who feels ousted or secluded or feels, like you said, other. Like I said earlier, I think you can apply a lot of different personal experiences to this story because it is kind of very subjective. But visually represented, there are a lot of those moments, like you said, early on, before he has become a person for the first time. He hasn't transformed. He's still his true self. He's kind of hiding. Anytime he goes up the surface, they're even like, land monsters. Like they're really worried about being seen as, like you said, their true selves. But once he finds Alberto and is accepted, not only for being a sea monster, but finds one of his own kind and is doing the things he wants to do, he is then enabled to be more adventurous. Early on, I could see if they were maybe going for this kind of, male romance. And Alberto and Luca, they worked together very well as a friend. So I
mean, they do a lot of bonding. They are hanging out on the beach with their shirts off. And they're like, it was kind of like an exploratory thing. It's not really like a 1-for-1 because he's a sea monster and all he wants to do is go above the surface to be a human, but then when he's a human, to be your true self is to be the sea monster. So it's like, it's not a literal one, but I could totally see why people put those things together and use it as an allegory. And I think that emotionally I was feeling it.
I think, like all great stories, Matt, the mark of a good story or mark of an effective story is one that you can then place, you can see yourself in. You get some sort of inspiration or some sort of emotion out of it. So while it didn't work for me on those levels, if it's working for other people and helping them express things or ideas or, just concepts they hadn't processed before, that's good. It's very, very good. So while I don't think that's exactly what they were going for when they were writing it, I'm glad that people were happy and that's what they got out of the movie because it's about growth. It's about being your true self. It's about, not lying about your true self to save face for people who maybe not have the best of your interests at heart. So yes, across the board, I think it all vibes. Yes. 1 thumb up for me, 2 thumbs up for Matt. Disney Luca, you can see it on Disney Plus. You don't even have to pay the $30 on Premiere Access.
Don't pay.
You like it, Matt? I like it. There's so many other movies we like. Once again, go check out our video playlist, Matt and Matt movie reviews. We have a bunch of stuff. Mortal Kombat, if Disney's not your thing. We're also doing MCU movies, so that'll be fun soon. He's showing you.
Ciao.